slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Preston Tucker wasn't born into wealth or power. He grew up in Michigan, right in the shadow of Detroit's auto giants, but he wasn't content just watching cars roll by. From a young age, he was obsessed with speed, with machines, with dreaming up ideas bigger than the world around him. As a teenager, Tucker bounced between racing, fixing cars, and working for companies like Ford and Studebaker. He never stayed put for long. He wasn't the kind of man to follow rules. He was always chasing the next big idea. People said he had the gift of talk, and he used it to sell his vision of the future, even when others doubted him. During World War II, Tucker designed a radical armored car for the Army, low, fast, and armed like a tank. The project didn't get approved, but it proved something. Tucker thought differently. He didn't want to just build cars. He wanted to build better cars. By the time the war ended, America was ready for a new chapter. Millions of soldiers were coming home, and families wanted new homes, new lives, and new cars. The big automakers were still recycling old pre-war designs. Tucker believed he could outsmart them. And so, the idea of the Tucker 48 Torpedo was born. Not just another sedan, but a futuristic promise. A car that could be faster, safer, and more daring than anything else on the road. The war was over, and America was booming. Soldiers returned home, factories roared back to life, and families wanted to move forward. There was just one problem. The cars on the market looked like they were stuck in the past. Most companies were simply dusting off their old 1941 models and calling them new. Preston Tucker saw opportunity in that gap. He believed Americans didn't just want a car, they wanted a symbol of the future. Sleek, modern, and filled with innovations no one else dared to try. While Ford, Chrysler, and GM played it safe, Tucker wanted to leap ahead. He imagined a car that was lower, smoother, almost like an airplane on wheels. A car that didn't just look different, but offered things drivers had never seen before. A safer windshield, better handling, even a headlight that turned with the steering wheel. It was bold, it was risky, but it was exactly what the post-war public was dreaming of. In those first days, Tucker was more than just a man with an idea. He was a salesman of hope. He promised Americans a car that matched their new optimism, a car ready for the highways of tomorrow. Preston Tucker called it the Tucker Torpedo, though the world would later know it as the Tucker 48. From the very beginning, the design stood out from anything else on the road. Where other cars were tall and boxy, the Tucker was low, sleek, and aerodynamic, almost like a rocket ready to launch. The most eye-catching feature was right up front: 3 headlights. 2 were normal, but the third one, nicknamed the Cyclops Eye, moved with the steering wheel. Wherever the driver turned, the light followed, illuminating dark corners before you even got there. It was a small touch, but it made the car feel alive. Then there was the windshield. Unlike other cars with rigid glass, Tucker's windshield was designed to pop out during a crash, lowering the chance of serious injuries. Inside, the dashboard was padded to protect passengers, and the doors extended into the roofline, making it easier to get in and out. Everywhere you looked, the Tucker 48 was full of little details that showed how much thought went into it. Tucker wasn't building just another car. He was building a safer, smarter, and more futuristic machine for families who wanted more than the same old design. This was no ordinary dream car. This was a challenge to Detroit itself. In June of 1947, all eyes turned to Chicago. Preston Tucker had promised the world something revolutionary, and now it was time to prove it. At the Tucker plant, once a massive Dodge factory during the war, thousands gathered to witness the unveiling of his dream. When the curtain finally dropped, there it was. The Tucker 48, shimmering under the lights. Sleek curves, that bold center headlight, and a shape that looked more like a fighter jet than a family car. The crowd gasped. and for a moment, you could feel history being made. Reporters rushed to get closer, photographers snapped away, and newspapers across America wrote headlines about the car of tomorrow. Families who had spent years driving pre-war hand-me-downs now imagined themselves behind the wheel of something truly modern. But the excitement wasn't just about the car, it was about what it represented. The Tucker wasn't from Detroit's Big Three. It wasn't from some faceless corporation. It was from a man with a vision who wanted to take on the giants and give Americans a better deal. That night, Tucker wasn't just a car maker, he was a folk hero. And the Tucker 48 was more than metal and glass. It was hope on four wheels. While the crowds were cheering and the papers were buzzing, behind the factory doors, the reality was tougher. Preston Tucker was running a brand new company in an industry ruled by giants. Ford, Chrysler, and GM had decades of experience, endless cash, and political friends in every corner. Tucker? He had passion, ideas, and a team racing against the clock. Every day was a battle. The designs were advanced, but they came with challenges. Some parts had to be redesigned, others just weren't ready for mass production. Tucker's engineers worked day and night, testing engines, fine-tuning suspensions, and trying to deliver on every promise. And then came the money problem. Building cars isn't cheap. To raise funds, Tucker sold dealership rights and even created stock offerings. At first, investors lined up, but soon the critics started circling. Some newspapers painted him as a dreamer who couldn't deliver. Others hinted that Detroit's big automakers were quietly working against him. Still, Preston Tucker never lost his fire. He walked the factory floors daily, shaking hands with workers, telling them, "We're building history, don't give up." The dream was alive, but the pressure was mounting. The Tucker 48 wasn't just fighting to be built. It was fighting to survive. By 1948, Preston Tucker's fight had moved beyond the factory floor. It was now in the hands of Washington. The Securities and Exchange Commission opened an investigation, claiming Tucker had misled investors with promises he couldn't keep. Suddenly, the man who had been a symbol of American innovation was painted as a con man in the headlines. Federal agents raided the Tucker plant. They boxed up documents, searched offices, and hauled away evidence. The newspapers had a field day. "Tucker in trouble," the headlines screamed. To the average American, it looked like the dream was crumbling. But to Tucker, it was more than an investigation. It felt like sabotage. Many believed the Big Three automakers had friends in government who wanted him gone. After all, if Tucker's safer, more advanced cars hit the market, Detroit would have to catch up. And that meant billions lost. Preston Tucker faced it head-on. He stood before reporters saying, "When you try to build something new in America, you've got enemies. But this car is real, and we're not stopping." His words inspired his workers and loyal supporters, but the storm was only getting stronger. The Tucker 48 was no longer just a car. It had become a battlefield between vision and power. The story of Preston Tucker soon shifted from the factory floor to the courtroom. In 1949, the trial began, and it was called the Trial of the Century for the auto industry. The government accused Tucker of fraud, claiming he sold stock and dealership rights for a car that never truly existed. Inside the courtroom, the tension was thick. Prosecutors painted him as a fast-talking dreamer who tricked investors. They showed slides of unfinished cars, missing parts, and delays. To them, Tucker wasn't a visionary. He was a schemer. But then came the defense. Tucker's lawyers rolled in actual Tucker 48s, running, driving, real cars. The jury could see it with their own eyes. The car wasn't a myth. It wasn't vaporware. It was sitting right in front of them, headlights glowing. The crowd outside cheered Tucker every day. Ordinary Americans loved his fight. To them, he was the little guy standing up to Detroit and Washington. They waved signs, wrote letters of support, and believed that he had been targeted simply for daring to challenge the system. After weeks of testimony, The jury delivered its verdict: not guilty. Tucker was cleared of fraud. The man had won in court, but by then the damage was done. His factory was shuttered, his money gone, and his dream car left with only 51 built. It was a victory on paper, but a heartbreak in reality. The jury's verdict cleared Preston Tucker's name, but it couldn't save his company. By the time the trial ended, the factory was closed, the workers laid off, and the dream of mass-producing the Tucker 48 was over. Only 51 cars had been built, each one a rolling piece of history. For Preston Tucker, it was bittersweet. He had proven his car was real, his vision was honest, and his dream wasn't a scam. But in America's auto industry, winning in court wasn't enough. The giants of Detroit had money, power, and influence, and Tucker simply couldn't break through. Yet the story didn't end there. The Tucker 48 became more than just a rare car. It became a symbol of innovation, of courage, and of the risks one man took to challenge the system. Car enthusiasts across the country cherish the survivors. Today, when one rolls into an auction, it can sell for millions of dollars. Collectors don't just see a car. They see the fight of a man who believed safety, style, and innovation belonged in every driveway in America. And even though the Tucker Company didn't last, Preston Tucker's spirit never truly died. Every time that rear engine fires up, people stop, listen, and smile, because they know they're not just looking at a car. They're looking at the American dream, built on wheels. The Tucker 48 will always be remembered as more than just a car. It was the dream of a man who dared to say, "America deserves better." Preston Tucker may have lost his company, but he won something bigger, a place in history as the rebel who stood up to Detroit and almost changed the auto industry forever. Today, only 47 Tucker cars survive, each one priceless, each one a reminder of what could have been. Whenever you see one, you're not just looking at chrome and steel. You're looking at the hopes of a man who believed the future could be safer, faster, and smarter. And this is just the beginning of our journey into rare American cars.